Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. And I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder because I remembered. I don't know why from doing the flyer to having the calendar in front of me, I get in live and forget the date, but I did well today. So I'm going to be intentional about celebrating myself. It's We Need to Know Wednesday here in the Java Cafe. Welcome, Java fam. Let's go and see who's in. I have a guest slated to be with us this morning. The Honorable State Representative Nika Elugardo is coming in the room. She's the state representative who is also, there's a couple of them, who is also running for the Senate seat in the newly drawn district, Second Suffolk district there. So she is coming in just a few moments. I have confirmation that she got the link. So hopefully everything is working out on her end. And so hopefully she will be in just a couple of seconds. But let's say good morning to the Java fam. Daryl from Tennessee, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Pastor Marion, it is hump day, getting over the hump Wednesday. Good to see you in the room as well. Naraki, beautiful, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Tara, good to see you in the room as well. Good morning to you. And also Props, my brother, good morning. Good to see you in the room. My sister Nikki, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Sharon Cornelius, good to see you in the room. Sharon, I saw you were able to get registered yesterday. Dope about that. And also Tasha, good morning. Good to see you in the room as well. And so it's We Need to Know Wednesdays. Our state representative just popped in the room. We're going to give her a couple of seconds to make sure she's good. While she is doing that, just want to remind you that today from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Boston Medical Center, there is the head and neck screening event that is taking place in the Menino Building lobby at Boston Medical Center, 840 Harrison Avenue. You can take steps to prevent head and neck cancer or catch it early. You can join them there today from 2 to 5 p.m. Get a short physical exam with a focus on screening and head and neck cancer. Learn more about options for quitting smoking. Sign up for health insurance. They'll guide you through it. There will be light refreshment served. You can get more information at 617-638-2362. And also to keep you aware that the vaccination and booster shot is available to you. Mayor Wu, along with Dr. Brasola. And if you give me 1 second, the health commission is actually texting me now to confirm, I would say 45 minutes tops, to confirm that Dr. Basola is coming back in the room for Your Healthy Java next Tuesday. So we're trying to get that confirmed. So please keep in mind that the vaccination is available. If you've noticed my cadence early on, I was strongly suggesting you do the research, listen to the doctors and Black and brown experts and saying, consider it. It's to a point now where I've changed that cadence to telling you get the vaccination and also get your booster. And so we want to keep you reminded of that. We want to be here for all the equity, health equity, and other equities we fought for. And speaking of that, our state representative, the Honorable Nika Elugardo, is coming into the room at this time. And so I would like to introduce to some and present to others this wonderful queen who is part of great history. I believe it was in 2018. When you got elected along with the district attorney, Rachel Rollins, state representative Liz Miranda, and also Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Excuse the expression, but you all did the damn thing. So shout out to you for that. Representative, the Honorable Representative, good morning. Good to see you in the room. I think this is your first time in the Java Cafe? Is
Which
it?
is kind of crazy, right?
Yes, yes, yes. As
How
far as
long have I known you and I've never been on Java with Jimmy?
I'm just going to sip my coffee because Nika has a nice way of getting you together with a wonderful, beautiful smile. But good morning, Rep. Good to have you in the room this morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you, Jimmy?
I am doing well. I am doing well. On Mental Health Mondays, we usually ask folks to describe their mental health status in one word. And I know over the past 20 months, as long as I've known you, we'll go into that in a minute. You've always been someone who has fought for equity. And so I would ask you, with all due representative, but as Nika, as a mom, as a wife, you recently came through some medical challenges. How would you describe your mental health status in one word, considering all you've endured, all you've accomplished, and all that you are championing for our community? What is one word? I'll give you a couple of seconds to talk about your mental health status.
Gratitude.
See, Nika, Representative, I'm not messing with you this morning because you're going to put us on the desk. Gratitude. And so give us a little bit of context, because with all I named, you're still able to extract gratitude. And so give us a little context and we'll go into introduction for those that don't know who you are.
Well, a lot of us experienced a lot of loss and a lot of challenge over the last 2 years. And, I was experiencing personal blessing and a lot of heartache for family members and community members and constituents who were experiencing health loss, who were experiencing a death in the family. I walked up to a man on my street who just looked lost, um, a Black grandfatherly gentleman. And this is not too long before my accident. And, I asked him, do you know where you're going? Because it was raining and he seemed to be walking in circles in a little area on the sidewalk. And his hearing wasn't very good. And we figured it out. We had to write things down. And eventually we figured out how to communicate. He had lost his son, who was a little younger than us, Jimmy, like in his late 30s, early 40s, um, suddenly to COVID. They thought he had the flu. He got put in the hospital. They weren't allowed to visit him because of where we were at then. The vaccines, I don't believe, were out yet. Um, and his son was gone in 6 weeks. And so you're seeing this kind of suffering. And I just got to tell you that, of course, you have empathy, even when you haven't lost your son, because we've all experienced loss. Um, I was healthy at that stage. And then a few months after that, I was full of joy, doing some exercise a little outside of my age range, I would say, as a late 40s, and flying across some steps up and down, doing a grapevine as fast as I could with an end move that was supposed to jump onto about a 2.5 foot ledge and do a twist and land in a squat, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Which might have been okay if I didn't also look back at my very cute husband and say, "Watch this," and wink. That cocky 6 or 16-year-old just comes out when I'm in that joyful physical state. I love using my body.
Yep.
And have always been the type that you're a little overconfident about what your body can do versus cautious.
I'm
So
on.
I took that jump. I made that twist in the air at high speed. I looked over, and before I knew it, I had missed the step because your torque messes up when you do twisting. And you're not. I'm not a professional, and so I go flying into the ledge, miss it. It's too high for me to catch myself. My hands go out like this. And the first thing that hits the corner of this concrete ledge at a high speed is my face.
Jesus.
My teeth crashed up into my face. I got a fracture in my face. My teeth were all like in the cartoons. They had to shove them back down in the ER. Thank God there was a dental surgeon in the ER at Brigham and Women's on a Sunday. They said that never happens. So God provided. So after 7 hours of wrestling with my face, they got the teeth back in there. Um, and then I had a series of complications after that that included a very serious concussion, a very serious infection. Um, and then I found out when I was finally 4 months later able to get professional concussion therapy that I had a bunch of things going on um, from other crazy things I did in my childhood at age 10 and 20 that made me predisposed to a really bad concussion. So the long and short of it is it was a 9 month recovery. And during that recovery, we discovered because my concussion had a bunch of vision issues, but then I was having a lot of additional vision issues that can't be explained by a concussion, that for years I've had glaucoma, one that younger people get, typically women in their 30s or 40s, that's related to some eye anatomy issues. That you could have one or two eye anatomy issues, and I had both of those. So I had narrow angles, and I had what's called a plateau iris, and also I had double vision, which I've been self-correcting and creating migraines. So that all this stuff came out that I never would have found out. And the problem with that was I was in danger of going blind
Jeez.
suddenly. So that was some bad news to get when I was already incapacitated. So 6 eye surgeries later, my vision is much worse, but I'm no longer in danger of going blind. Uh, I was discharged at the end of July. My birthday is July 31st. I think it was July 27th. I was discharged from my 4 or 5 months of cognitive, speech, concussion, and vestibular, which means when you have vertigo therapies. I was getting tested twice a week on a range of things. And I tell you, in the end of July, it was the first test I ever got in my life where I was excited to have straight zeros.
Yes. Yes.
Finally.
It representative, it's we need to know Wednesday. And I saw like different, tweets and references that you were dealing with health issues. And one is a friend, and so long that we've known each other. Forgive me for not directly. Actually, I do remember checking in, and your husband
Yeah.
had your phone, and he did. I just remembered that. And he was like, this is her husband, just keep her in prayer and whatnot. And so thank you, one, for being transparent. And it speaks to, and we can, talk about this a couple of seconds in reference to the vaccine. You had an experience where at some points, I'm sure, the point of health equity came
Mhm.
up. I heard you reference to when you finally got into
Yes.
cognitive concussion, specified therapy. And so I heard a cadence that it's like, you probably had to go through insurance and all this other stuff, find somebody that does it. And so health equity is a big issue. And because I know your time is limited and there's so much to talk about, from the frame of health equity, what are your thoughts around the vaccination when it comes to Black and brown people being here? And I've been referring to now when Dr. Pasola came in, Dr. Ron K out of Mass General, and she talked about we deserve this, and she started raising the cadence of health equity. And so while I have you here as a leader, as someone who has been very fortunately and unfortunately, because had that thing not happened, you may have been doing a twist and turn one day and went blind in that. And I don't, disregard what you went through with the physicality of the 6 surgeries and everything. But, we're both people of faith, and this can go very, I won't say left, this can go very right, real quick. And so I'll try to keep us together. And so what are your thoughts? What would you say to the community in the reference of health equity and considering the vaccination and those who have been vaccinated getting the booster?
Right. Well, I had the great honor last night with Representative Tammy Gouveia had held a vaccine equity panel.
Okay.
And I felt like Forrest Gump, as often happens, because I was with the very esteemed Dr. Atia Martin
Okay.
and with a couple of public health experts. And you know how Forrest Gump just appears in places. I'm like, what am I doing here? But the thing that I wanted to add to what we know about the data, right? Because we know the data shows our adults, our elders, and our children, especially if I could just say, the blacker you are, the less equitable it is, and that's a skin color thing as well as an ethnicity thing. So we know that data, and so I'm not the expert on regurgitating the data, which honestly most of us didn't even need the surveys to know. Um, but it's an opportunity to fix our underinvestment in the public health of our communities. Because here's the thing we do two things. And I say we, and it's not just white people, it's everybody in charge. We either ignore the fact that there are particular needs in our communities that deserve to be met and particular resources that deserve to be uh, invested in, or we try to come in with the solutions instead of paying people in the community to do the solution making and to do the work. That's the missing link. We do have to send the vans in. We do have to engage churches and mosques. We do have to engage places of faith. We do have to engage community health organizations. But who should be getting that paycheck at the end of the day? The person that lives in that building, who knows the people in that building. That's who people are going to listen to. That's who needs to be trained. That's who needs to be getting a living wage to do the work. And so rolling the van up in there without that, we've all walked around in our equity clinics and watched people walking by not getting vaccinated. The van is right there, right? And we know that our engaging our church and community health organization leaders is a necessary but insufficient condition. We can't just replicate the supremacy rolling up in there with our infrastructure, not asking mom, grandma, grandpa, kid, what do you need to make this work? If I were to pay you, how would you make it happen? Our kids are entrepreneurial. They'll make that happen. You find the 16-year-old that has the bearing of a leader, and you say, you get your friends here and get them vaccinated. I'll pay you $18 an hour. It will be done. I've said this from the beginning. I'm not fully in charge. I accept that I have 1/160th of the house responsibility. If I was writing the check, that check would have been written.
Come. Representative, it is so wonderful to hear that you view and I know this about you, to view the community as the ambassadors, as the trusted voices. This platform to some is kind of, a trusted voice, and it have been very intentional about ensuring that we have accurate information, experts in the room and whatnot. And so I thank you for that, because even back when we were talking about trauma, that was the model. It's not just applicable to the vaccination and getting information out there, but there are leaders within our community. One example, and we'll move on, is in a trauma meeting, we learned that as much as EMTs say that their response is faster, we were instrumental in help creating a program. So residents, because it's still Aunt Sally and Uncle Joe that hear the gunshot, see the person on the ground, and goes down and holds their hand until the EMT gets there. So who in the community, one, gets the counseling, two, gets the training to do that. And so that is a model, ma'am, that I think could be applicable across the board. And I love how you highlighted our young people and entrepreneurs, because we need to make sure that the equity that we fought for, that they're here for it. So young people, older people, parents, if you're listening, the vaccination is available, and so is the booster. And so I was going to say Dr. Nika, but Representative Nika, what I'm going to jump in, because you are currently a state representative, I believe, for the what district?
15 Suffolk.
15th Suffolk
Yeah.
State Representative. And now you have stepped in to raise your voice too. And I'm going to ask why, you are running, announced for the Second Suffolk Senate seat. And so what, and I'll ask, I ask all candidates this all the time, even friends, why are you running? Why are you moving from one seat to another? And for those of us that know, representative and the House and the Senate are kind of, they function differently. But tell us, Representative Elugardo, why are you running for that Senate seat?
So Second Suffolk got rewritten with the redistricting that just happened, which means after the census, we recount everybody and then we figure out where everybody's at. And we wanted a more powerful Black Senate seat in Boston. And by more powerful, we mean there's no chance nobody not Black is getting in there. That's number one. But by number two, we also mean the Black and brown cultural institutions and economic institutions are encapsulated together so that they can combine their power and draw more resources into the district. We have been starved in the communities of Hyde Park, Mattapan, Roxbury, Dorchester, and my communities where I represent, Jamaica Plain, Mission Hill, to a lesser degree starved because of all the white people once you get to the other end of those communities, right? but we have been starved of state resources, particularly when it comes to the 40 plus, now getting up to 50 almost $1 billion budget. And now we got these billions coming in infrastructure money, ARPA money, which is the relief funds, and they came in last year with regards to COVID relief, and we're getting all this money in, and it's like we're getting steaks now instead of crumbs at the table. But whose table is it? Don't offer me no steak at my own table. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm running because I know the Second Suffolk has had for decades, if not longer, genius, resource, brilliance, power that is active and doing stuff, but has had to seek alternative routes to function because of the glass ceilings, brick walls, and stonewalling that we get every time you try to do anything with any kind of institution, educational, financial, job, housing. So we're in there trying to work on that in the House, but I have felt stifled because very few of the Black and Brown institutions of power are in my district. And I don't know if listeners know how it typically works, but you set one foot outside of your district lines, you kind of need permission from that rep to do anything over there. So I'm watching, and Jimmy knows that for 25 plus years before I became a rep, I was just an underground worker.
Yep.
Just doing stuff underground. I worked extra hard not to be at the forefront,
Mhm.
extra hard to push out other people, train the people that train them, train directors, systems thinking, business principles, activism, movement building. If you were doing it, I was there trying to help and be behind the scenes. And it just, God really showed me that was humility building work,
Yep.
but he doesn't want me to always be in the back. Sometimes you pull people forward by stepping forward. And that's been a difficult lesson for me, even in recent weeks, because it is my tendency to feel like if I could push two people forward with my one, with each hand. If I just go by myself, it's just me. But what I have learned from the Black and Brown political community that I didn't have respect for politics prior. I had a lot of disdain. When Mel King asked me to run in 1996, I was offended. I mean, I was an obnoxious young kid. But I was like, well, how could you see me doing something nasty like that? I'm not thinking in my mind the obvious.
Hold on,
I'm
Rep.
talking to a politician. What did you say?
Did you say, I'm gonna ask you what you said. Did you say something nasty like running for did you
I
say
said something obnoxious like that. And he kept working on me. He didn't say, don't you know I was a state rep and blah, blah, blah. And this is what I did, because that wasn't the relationship we had. And we met for years and years. And I mean, I was with him a few weeks ago. He's excited about the run. Not a few weeks ago, last week, I guess it was. I was in his house picking up some Ensure bottles that he wants kids to paint. And I took this like 200 Ensure bottles. So if any of your listeners have kids that want to paint these bottles for Mel, please help me out because I'm calling teachers and whatnot. Anyway, sidebar. But back to the point, I have experience with the power of movement building.
Yes.
When there's a lot of different, I call it the untended garden in Boston. There's so much resource, so much wealth, the way our people think about wealth. This being activated, ready to be activated, but we're not coordinated, and we're specifically not coordinated with the government. And the Black political community, I'm not just talking about elected, and also Latinx and AAPI, I've gotten to know that political community more recently through the mayoral elections.
That's right. Yep.
And I'm not just talking about electeds, but the people that are doing political mobilizing.
Yes.
Has so deeply impressed me at the readiness and the ripeness to lead Boston. So this Senate seat was written, and this is a miracle, people. We gotta own these miracles and claim them and give God the glory when they happen. This Black seat was written to be the most powerful seat in Boston in these times. Maybe in the Commonwealth, but certainly in the city of Boston. Because it takes up the whole center of the city. And my white colleagues at the State House right now, on the Senate and the House, are looking to Black and brown individuals to lead. Ever since George Floyd, you remember when I came in, a reporter asked me the other day, you came in talking about the State House is like a plantation, like all American institutions, and the Democratic Party is racist. You've softened your rhetoric. I was like, when did I soften my rhetoric? Everybody's just saying it now. Like I've been saying the same thing, and you just don't report it because it's no longer news. Thank God. I didn't know it was news when I first said it. Tito Jackson called me up after I was on some show. I think it was with Callie Crossley, or it might have been something that Yahoo had published that I had said, because I was just saying what we all say, don't we, Jimmy? We always say these things. This isn't news to us. I was just talking like we always talk. Yep. I wasn't trying to make a headline. I was like, oh, you know how it is. At functions like a plantation, they try to give us some crumbs off the table or some steak to pacify us when we built that dang house. No, I'm not taking it. That's every institution in America, right? And people were all up in arms. And Tito Jackson called me, are you okay? I'm like, okay, for what? And he said, well, in the news. I'm like, what's in the news? You know, I'm not one of those that's good about checking where my name is coming up in the news. So I didn't know.
Yep.
I don't think I even watched the show that I was on. And so he was like, everybody's talking about what you said. I was like, what did I say? About the Democratic Party being racist. And I'm like, everybody knows the Democratic Party's racist. And so suddenly I open up my eyes and go online and I see it's a big deal. Why is that a big deal? You know, even Speaker DeLeo called me, do you think I'm racist? Like, I don't know you, but the institution is racist. After George Floyd, I met with Speaker DeLeo in 4 different settings, one-on-one, and then 3 group settings, including Black Latino Caucus. You know what he said to us? He said it in every meeting. I've watched that video. I forget how many times he said. It was a bunch of times of George Floyd being killed. And I realized that structural racism is in everything. It's not just about policing. We have a lot of work to do in how, and he starts listing housing, economic, but I can't replicate the tone. All respect to the former speaker, but he was talking to us like he was letting us know something that he had found out, even though we had been saying it.
Living it.
I mean, Diane and them were saying it. And before her, you know, Gloria Fox, we've all been saying it for decades, but they finally heard it.
Because
so now everybody's saying it.
It was I not the same experience with him, but, you know, I've always tried to be balanced, you know, come from humble beginnings, but I used to be of the school of thought, pulling myself up from the bootstrap. And I'll say for me, watching what we lived and know and have become almost callous to, we try to fight it. But I can understand former Speaker DeLeo's sentiment of not giving an excuse because there's enough people around him that he should have known. And then just being in a position anyway. There was something that snapped in me when I actually, because I made myself watch it. I wasn't going to. I made myself watch it. And when I tell you, Representative, it changed the cadence. You know, I was always, you know, Black and brown and you know, inclusive and diaspora. No, that video helped me start talking about the fact that we need to focus on Black people, and because it just whole nother topic, but related to what you're saying. And so what I've heard from you so far is the redistricting worked in our favor for this particular district. It's going to be a very powerful Black district. I will say I've talked to other people that were involved in these convos, and one sister was like, blacker than Black, than Black, than Black. That district is going to become. And so thank you for that update in education. Thank you for also giving context to your years of service in community and then going to the State House. What is the transition that takes place if this is favorable for you? How does your voice get increased? There's opportunity to do a little bit of education between the House and the Senate. It is 9:32. I don't know what your drop dead is, but I will take whatever time you have. I'll take it. Can you tell us what will be the impact of you achieving that seat with what you just named around it being the Blackest district probably in the Commonwealth? That's dope. That's it. Just for 1 second. Shout out to everybody that made that happen, because it's its own. And I don't know if you heard about this, but it may become its own little Mandela type. Some years ago, they were looking to separate part of Black
Boston. Somebody was hipping me on some of the writing about that. Yeah.
Yep. And so
So the House of Representatives has 160 members. The Senate has 40. You'll hear a lot of people say there are no Black members currently in the Senate. Actually, there's an Afro-Latino from Springfield.
Yep.
There's no, African-American non-immigrant, but he's still Black. So he identifies Black as far as I know. There is no Black Boston senator. And out of that whole 40, now Senator Chang Diaz is leaving, who's Latina. And so that's just open. Now we just elected Lydia Edwards in a special election. So she's a Black woman, city councilor. So she is in the Senate, provided that she wins in the general, which has no opponent. So that's highly, highly likely. She beat her big opponent. And Winthrop, just as a sidebar, I got to say to me, my husband and I went to Winthrop to knock doors for counselor. Now, I don't know what you call it. She's not a senator-elect yet because she got to get through the second election. But we went to go knock doors for Lydia in Winthrop. I was knocking doors. My husband was taking care of me, driving around, making sure I was warm and that type of stuff, doing his work and then coming back and peeking on me. And, Winthrop is white. People know that, right?
Right.
So my phone dies. I'm canvassing using my phone. I'm not using paper. I'm using my phone. So when your phone dies, you got to stop.
Okay.
I go back to the car, charge up the phone, warming up because it said it was going to be 60-something degrees that day. And it was 40-something degrees with the ocean wind, bringing that wind chill down to negative whatever. I don't know.
AKA climate change. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm sitting in there in the car and I'm doing some work on my laptop while I'm waiting for my phone to charge. Guess who rolls up? Mr. Police Officer. Knock on the window. My husband rolls down the window. My husband had fallen asleep there. He woke up, rolls down the window. And the police officer says, "I'm very sorry, but some neighbors say you look very suspicious." Very suspicious. Not just regular suspicious.
I'm glad that you can laugh because, oh, Jesus, the response he would have got from me. But go ahead. Sorry.
You know why I could laugh? Because what was my next statement?
What?
I am a state representative, and I know that's very suspicious to many people. And I laughed. He sees the lit in my hand, apologizes profusely, wishes me luck for my candidate. Everybody I talked to, except one person on the doors, however, went for Lydia. There were a few people that weren't for Lydia at first, and I was like trying to suss out why. She's a fighter. You could tell they don't like that. I'm like, what I mean by that is that friend you have that doesn't let anybody get away with anything on you. So like when these developers are coming in, you get stuff, not just them.
Mm-hmm.
They like the sound of that. Now we all want to pick and parse if our elected officials don't do this, that we like that, and you should. But at the end of the day, we got to get behind every single one of them Black elected officials unless they're doing something untoward or going in the totally wrong direction. We got to get behind each other and stop being picky about this policy or that policy. You express your view on it, but then you don't like kick them, to the curb totally. And people will tease me about that because I ran against an elected of color when I run. I'm happy to talk about that if we want to. But right now, what we have is the opportunity to have Lydia Edwards, to have myself. And with 160, you take that $48 billion budget and you take the little bitty earmarks that you get. So I get a couple $100,000 for my district and then a million plus if I'm sharing, because we've gotten good at getting earmarks. But I can't step outside of my district. So I'm going to get 4 times the constituents if I win and approximately that much more money. You get to be a chair immediately walking up in there of a committee. That takes 6-8 years for most people or more on the House side. You get a team instead of one aide I have right now. If your aide's not working out, your life is chaos. If your aide is working out, their life is chaos. So you get a team, you get a budget, you get to get 4, 5, 6 people who can mobilize your fellows, mobilize your interns, mobilize your community. It's a totally different ball game. And the power of that voice to bring together all of the state reps in that we call delegation.
Mm-hmm.
and to say, if we move in one direction, we can roll some serious resources into every one of your districts. That is work that needs to be done to build on the heritage. You know, Sonia did a great job on policy. Diane Wilkerson before her did a great job on earmarks and brought in a bunch of policy also. We need to build on that heritage and do that together. This is not the Nika show. Because if I wanted the Nika show, I would take my many degrees and my husband's big bucks that he has made bringing us from poverty to now VP of a software company as a Latino guy. That's a big deal over there. We would just roll up. If I wanted a nice office, I would not be looking for it at the State House. I tell you that, right? I would not take JD, MIT, Harvard MPP into the State House for Nika show. I'm in that State House because I've been working for 25 years and everything we do gets a glass ceiling or a brick wall. Why is it? Because structural racism, I don't care who likes me or doesn't. It's written into the laws. It's actually written into our Constitution. This is why people get all up in them. If we pass every single bill currently on the legislature that we're all fighting for criminal justice reform, I have one regarding housing. I have one regarding ballot bills. You know, Rep. Miranda, Rep. Tyler, Rep. Holmes, Rep. Fluker Oakley, the other Black reps in Boston, all have bills. If we pass every single one of them on top of that policing bill, do you know how many murders by police that is going to stop? Zero. Do you know how many new convictions of police that is going to create? Zero. Do you know why? Because the problem is, and I have somebody working on research for this for like months now. The problem is here and across the country, especially, the court has created case law based on interpreting the Constitution in a light of what makes white people uncomfortable. And if you think I'm wrong, then you might remember this phrase, reasonable fear. What do juries interpret as a reasonable fear of a police officer or a fear for their life? We've also seen it with non-police officers in some of these trash judgments that have come down nationally, right? Why are we getting excited if we get one judgment in favor with those dudes down with armory? You know, like, give me a break. That's an exception. Most of the time, based on the law on the books, it is totally acceptable for you to blow somebody's head off because you're scared of a Black man. And none of the laws we have are going to deal with that. So we need a louder voice to bring this intellectual understanding of what's going on into our communities and back. Because the communities, we know it intuitively, but we need the language. We need to understand how the budget process works. You know that I had some kids that were beating up people. They were mugging people. I couldn't find them. And then I got their pictures from the police. I took the pictures to the youth worker that lived in the community. I was like, down low, bring me these kids. So they did. And I brought other kids there together. The other youth workers brought other kids because you don't want them to feel singled out.
Exactly.
I just want them to know they're welcome. I was like, what are y'all doing to help me get this money into this district?
You asked them that?
Yeah, and they were on it. We did. You remember how I used to do those things with y'all? We did those same visioning.
Yep.
But we had to do a little pre-exercise because when I first asked the kids, what is your dream for your leadership in this community? Silence. So I gave them a little, because we had snacks, I gave them a little clementine.
Okay.
And I said, you hold this clementine and you say your name, you throw it to somebody and you say their name. You know, that type of game?
Yeah. Icebreaker.
We finished that game. And I said, by the time we finish these 3 meetings, you're going to be able to say your dream as fast as you can say your name. And so I don't know if y'all know Caleb Mooney McCoy. He does.
Yes, that's the son of Paulia Mooney McCoy. Where we met, a little bit about that. Healthy Futures back in 2000. I was there 2006. And so that's 15 years minimum, Rep, that we've known each other. Minimum. Yeah. Wow. Okay, go ahead.
So he goes by his rapper name is Oak Boy. Oak stands for one of a kind. So he used to run the streets, and now he does very positive rap.
Yep.
And so I brought him in to to help them take our little visioning exercise and turn it into a rap. And the third meeting, we were supposed to turn it into a budget request. But the third meeting was set for March of 2020.
Okay.
And so we didn't get to have that third meeting. So I had to make the budget request without them, which was unfortunate because they didn't make that full connection that they had actually made the budget request. Right. But I took their rap, I took their hexagoning exercise where they themed everything out. And I made a budget request for a couple $1 million for youth jobs and for PPE and testing for people who wanted to go to work of any age and who didn't have insurance coverage because they didn't have symptoms back then.
So they got, I just want to speed us up a little bit.
Yes.
I'm going to say counselor, rep. So they got, what do you
We
call
got $1 million of what we asked for.
the money on that is definitely important, but you transferable skills,
Yes.
civic engagement, and also you help them. And because Ayanna told me, James, stop saying that you're a voice for the voiceless. People have voices. Folks like you and I, my perspective is that we function as choir directors, getting the sopranos to come in.
I did direct a choir at Salvation Army in the South End. I was the assistant director of that youth choir. Yes.
I'm not messing with you, Representative. And so I want to go back to just a couple of things because you know I'm real. And we just, this is a sentiment that's out there, and you kind of named it. It came up in the mayoral race. And so you mentioned before that you did run after a run in a race that had other either black woman or black man. Actually, your race before was with what's his name? Jeff Sanchez,
Puerto Rican man.
Yes. And so now we know you declared, state representative Liz Miranda declared. And so there is sort of, what do you say? And I asked you this on Twitter, and thank you for responding, because shout out to Russell Holmes. I fuss about and with him a lot, but one of his strategies is ensuring that we have more black and brown in the House and Senate versus quote unquote bumping someone. You know, you and state representative, I'm going to ask her the same thing next Thursday. You and state representative Miranda are basically going for the same seat. And I did ask, so twofold question. One, I asked, who are you garnering? Who are you training? Who from that group are you identifying that can step in, that share your values? So there's an additional voice in the House. And then the other piece is, what is your response to the notion about canceling each other out? I'm not saying that's my sentiment, but there's a sentiment out there, and I would be remiss if you know, I did, and I know you appreciate authenticity. And so two things, and you responded on Twitter, so thank you for responding. And then you can also say it here. What have you done around ensuring that someone that shares your values is promoted and made available to the community to consider running for the seat that you were potentially exiting?
Thank you. So my current seat before redistricting has been majority white. And so as I have done, because I've done leadership development for many years, excuse me, and I have always, when I have a top leadership position, as soon as I take that position, I start building the pipeline. Because I learned early that if you don't do that, you're already too late. When you start thinking about moving on, you don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, but you're already too late. And the worst case scenario is you train up the person to be better than you, and you got to move on sooner than you think, which for me is always great because I like moving on. Like I like moving on and leaving it to somebody and then doing the next thing and leaving that to somebody. That's just how I'm wired.
Yes.
And so I immediately, before I was sworn in, did start looking for people based on who I had knocked on doors.
Okay.
And I approached some of those people, and one of them was interested, and then she ended up having family issues. And then I found another kid who sought me out, who grew up next door in Alice Taylor, which wasn't at that time in my district. But he, it's all Mission Hill. And so he was very interested in running. And so we worked together, and I tried to do my little part on the mentoring and connected him to Russell and others. So he ended up going to work in finance and get those skills, and can't afford to live in the district yet. And now the district has changed. And so that calculus has changed because my district no longer has that half of Mission Hill.
Okay.
And then I had a third gentleman. So that kid was a Black kid, and then there's a Latin kid, and this third gentleman, it's a little bit older, not old, but in his 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking for a while, and then he moved out of my district just to Eggleston Square, which is now in the new redrawn district after redistricting, which we had mentioned before from post census. We redraw the districts to make sure every district has the right number of people in it and the right percentage of people of color where we can do that.
Yep.
So the new district has a majority people of color.
Now this isn't the Second Suffolk Senate. This is your.
This is the 15th. This is talking about the pipeline for the seat I'm leaving.
Okay.
15th Suffolk, because it's added. It took out that half of Mission Hill and put it into Rep. Tyler's district, but it added on Eggleston Square, Forest Hills, and took out the richest white parts, the richest parts of white JP. So there's a lot of fodder there. But here's my problem, Jimmy. So that young man, he got a great job. He's having a baby. He just bought a house.
Yeah.
So I took a pay cut from a nonprofit job to come here, which I could do because my husband makes money. I'm not lying.
Yeah, I heard it.
So I could run because of my husband. Like, we didn't finance the campaign. We raised that money, but to just not have an income only became possible like a year or two before we ran because of the promotions that he had recently got.
Mm-hmm.
And so that enabled me the blessing to run. And most people don't have that.
And this young man with a new house, a new baby, and running it, the mental, the fundraising,
stress,
and so to get.
And then you're going to make 65,000, and you were about to make 90 or 6 figures. Between you and your spouse, you might make more, and now you're putting all that on your spouse, or you might not be married, and so you might not even have that buffer. You might not have a partner. So so the people in my district that are Black and brown are typically poor and struggling, and they don't want to run. And I've met a couple who could do a great job, but they can't do the campaign. And then there's young couples, young professionals. They're not trying to do that at this stage of their lives. And then there's post-retirement people. Everybody in the middle is mostly white because that's who can afford to live there. Okay. So I don't have a big, deep reserve, and now I'm all out of ideas. And I've been asking around ferociously even before I declared the run for Senate. And now I've been really asking, and to the point where I'm like, okay, just anybody Black. You don't have to agree with me on all the issues. Don't be white, because the white people in my district know they're not supposed to run. It's no longer a majority white district. They know. JP Progressives knows. Do not get in this race until the last minute, and there's nobody in it Black or brown.
Representative, I know you, and there's some candor that I have experienced, but I think experiencing it here today has just been an encapsulation of hearing bits and pieces of it in Zooms and stuff over the years. And I enjoy the cadence because we need that. And it does. Systemic racism in all systems definitely need to be called out. And so what I heard from that was that you're trying you tried to create a pool, but unfortunately, because either the water got hot and folks had to jump out because they had to swim. You know what I mean? Just a little preacher analogy there. And so the last thing I will ask is, can you speak, to the cancel out sentiment? It came up in the mayoral. It's come up before. It is a very interesting sentiment here in Boston. I've been to other cities, and you got 15, 20 Black folks. Now, different population, different voter block, different culture in some of these cities like Atlanta and Philly and whatnot. And so minimally, can you just speak to that sentiment? Again, not shared, not mine, but it is a sentiment. And sometimes I try to balance in, when folks are inboxing and asking, all this other stuff. So go ahead.
I honestly, I know you may not, but I do share the sentiment. I reached out to Rep. Miranda, who I thought was the strongest candidate in the House, other than myself, very early in the spring. And we did try to work it out for just one of us to run.
Yep.
And we were on that page together. But unfortunately, there's a lot of dynamics going on politically, personally, and in the district besides just our desire. And I didn't know about all those dynamics in the beginning, but as I learned more and discovered some of those dynamics, which everybody's going to want the details of, but this is my thing on that. You're not getting the details of it. What you get to know is I came to understand that I needed to run, and that my assessment in concert with many, many leaders who live in or work in Second Suffolk, including immigrant leaders who I've been trying to lift up, because the Black immigrant population is growing fast, and the African American born, the American born Black population in Boston is leaving. So I'm trying to recognize that and build up. That's why I've always been trying to build Rep Miranda, build Rep Tyler too, as an African American. But I really have focused on Black immigrant women leadership. Got behind Kendra very hard, you know. And so Kendra Hicks, who
Yes,
is
District
changing her
6.
name, but she's now a District 6 city councilor, which is my district. And so the district needs very level, very strong, very candid, very effective, powerful leadership with deep experience bringing folks together, that has respect of all the communities we need to mobilize. And I'm bringing that in a very powerful way that was honestly hard for me to admit, even though I knew it, because I don't want to take up all the air in the room.
Yep.
And I tend to once you let me out. But we need that right now. We need a Black senator that's going to get up in there and take up some oxygen on behalf of our people and bring the power and voice, not to my little district, but to that whole big district. And to be able to say to my Senate and House colleagues, here's what my community is telling me we need to do. Let's get behind that.
Absolutely.
And to forcefully fight for that and fight with them for that. I've had a number of senators and representatives reach out to me to say how they're very glad that I'm an option. And I work very well. And all of the opponents will need to show that they do that as well. And we'll be able to show many strengths. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a choice. And the residents of Second Suffolk will have ample opportunities to get to know me, my motivations, of course, my values, but also what are we going to do? Because I'm not going to roll up in there with plans for you. I'm going to roll up in there to discern your plans and bring those back to the State House and to combine them together. When I got to work with Black and BIPOC institutions on the mayoral endorsement process, both in the primary and the preliminary and the general, I felt my wings spread outside of my district. It was like I could breathe again, you know? And I didn't have to ask nobody permission because we were all working citywide.
That's right.
And all of those voices and all that genius and all that work they're doing, and they're just saying, we need leadership up at that State House. And each, elected is trying to provide that leadership. But the Senate seat brings everyone together because you got your 10, 15 reps in your seat and around your seat that care about what's happening in your seat because it affects their district as well. And they will be looking to us for leadership that I have been providing and am ready to provide fearlessly and without reservation and without a need to be popular, to be fancy, to be known, to be any of those things. I can have any of that I wanted. I did not come to public service for any of that. I came to public service because I am tired of doing hard work next to my people, and we just get a hammer on our head at the end of the day because the law is not on our side and the money is going elsewhere. And so put me in that position to make those decisions, and those decisions will be your decisions because I'm a collaborator and I listen. And I love that work, and I love to lift people up, and I love to let that kid that's a shooter know, you have the bearing of a leader. Get up in here and help me bring that money into this district. And you know what? They do. Not because of me, but because I know the people in the community that are trusted that I need to be standing next to when I say that to that kid.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a very powerful force when I know it's not me. I'm the last in a series of hard work that's been done that builds that final bridge so that you can walk across that bridge and take over that house that is the people's house. So I hope people will have a good time. It will not be the Nika show. We're going to be highlighting what's going on in the neighborhoods of the district. Our media will be earned. I don't like standing before a press conference saying, here's my ideas I just came up with. I like to show, here's the community that I am standing on the shoulders of, and they're lifting me up here to say what they told me to say and do what they told me to do. And we're doing it together.
I've often talked about the role of an elected and how we're not often to elect and neglect. And there's so much in here can be extracted from a job description for an elected official. And so, State Representative, the Honorable State Representative Nika C. Elugardo, I think I got better at pronouncing it. Now, I really honor and respect you in your role, but also as a friend and a person. And you know, there's a cadence that I heard today that I'm like, okay, Nika, it's been a while. I've heard some stuff when we were in those meetings, you know, about the mayoral and whatnot. You were very candid and kept it real. But I think this one-on-one just reminded me of the with all due Nika I met some years ago. And I will say to others, you know, we try to be balanced. So one of the other candidates are coming in next Thursday, and you know, we'll ask her similar questions as well. But State Representative, I appreciate you. Godspeed to you. Give your husband my best. And just, you know what I mean when I say stay covered. Get some old mothers around you that's going to keep you covered and whisper your name, you know, every morning or every night or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I really, you know, I am really looking forward to what's coming from you. And if favorable, we are definitely going to stand it and keep and I know you appreciate this, the level of accountability definitely needs to be increased. And here's a good friend. I didn't get all the comments on today, but I know the work. I know the work. I've seen collaborations. I know somewhere in them stories about working with some young people that Mikkel has been a part of it. And so I celebrate
Couldn't do
my
it
friend.
without him.
Listen, I celebrate my friend and brother here and others that in. We'll go in and say hi in a couple of seconds. But Representative, I'm going to let you go. We're over. We're just about at our 10 o'clock time. It's good because I like to bring the audience a purview of next year's election. And so we're going to bring some other folks in that are running. The last thing I'll say is there is 50 million that came into the ARP money around violence prevention. And you know, from the years of me sending off emails and some of my cadence not being as refined as it is now. But Rep, can you please ensure with your colleagues that the organizations that get some of that violence prevention money are doing the work and not just able to write wonderful proposals and have people in their leadership that reflect the population that they serve? And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but well, when you get off a camera, I will. But Representative, please be sure. Thank you. And thank you for when I used to fuss about the electeds not saying nothing, there was one elected that drafted a letter and said, James, here's an example of what I think the group should say when there are, you know, all life lost, but when there are children and women. And I thank you because you and your assistant tried to get the others to sign off on it, and it just didn't happen. So anyway, I feel my help coming. So I'm gonna let you get off of camera so you don't get in no trouble. But Representative, I appreciate you. Godspeed to you. Expedited healing. Next visit to the doctor. Wow them. Like they're thinking one thing and then they come in the room and they'd be like, well, it was like this a few months ago, but now we just don't know what happened and you're good.
That's already happened. We're already there.
All right, I'm going to get you off camera because now you're going to switch me from getting ready to cuss to go to church.
That's my role. That's my role.
I appreciate. Listen, you got the stuff falling out. Jesus, Representative, get off this camera. Love you much. Give your husband my best and Godspeed to you. Thank you. Listen, y'all, I had to get her off the camera. So much loaded there, and in all fairness and balance, State Representative Elizabeth, the Honorable Elizabeth Miranda, is coming in next Thursday at 9 a.m. to talk about her work and her candidacy as well. And so this was definitely important. Please share this and tag someone because my intent is, well, last year there were a lot of people running and I tried to bring them all into the room. I'm trying to do that this year, but I think I'm going to take some time off during the holidays, and I'll talk to you guys more about that later. We were in for a full hour today. Thank you all that stayed. It's definitely appreciated. Just a couple of announcements. We're continuing in the vein of Massachusetts Poly and Boston Poly. Newly elected Tanya Fernandez Anderson, Boston City Councilor-elect for District 7, is coming into the room for Thankful Thursdays tomorrow at 9 a.m. And also on Friday, and I have to update this flyer, Chip Guionis, and I'll get his, y'all know me names. I got to do better. From WGBH News, a contributor there, is coming in on Friday. I do want to also send condolences To my friend and sister, Gina Cristo, was scheduled to come into the room Friday as well, but she lost. And I've seen this on social media. There was an advocate in the community that was lost. I don't have her name, but Gina's not going to be able to make it on a Friday. But we are, and I've mentioned this before, not just with Gina, but I just want to also mention again that many, and State Representative Elugardo mentioned it when she first came on. Many in our community right now in this present time are dealing with a lot of loss, mourning, and grieving. And so for various reasons, from COVID to natural causes, violence, just a whole myriad of issues, a lot of people are transitioning. And though, you know, for those of us of faith believe that they're in heaven and they're doing better, it does not negate the fact that there is a missing factor here. And so we want to, I brought this up again because Gina, Winelia, all of you at Rivera Consultants, we are praying for you, the family of that young woman, who I would say is now healed from cancer. Bishop Bragg used to teach, oh, you're healed. Either God's going to take the ailment away from you or take you away from the ailment. And so to everyone that is being impacted by that transition and others, we are standing with you. We're praying for you. I'm fighting with possibly holding some space on Sunday evening. Maybe get a couple of folks to come in and sing time of prayer and some encouraging words. I'm not sure. But I've been watching a lot, and y'all know I'll hold space when I think the community needs it. All right, that's enough for me. We're over an hour today. Go ahead and register for Saturday's event. There are complimentary drinks. I talked to the staff there last night. We're going to have complimentary flatbread pizza, jerk pizza, a vegetarian option. And so go to the registration link and register for Saturday's this coming Saturday's Java Cafe 1218. That's taking place. Go register, case sensitive, lowercase bit.ly/JAVACAFE 1218. Please go and register. A flyer's coming out with the speakers. We're going to have vendors there. And also there's going to be a couple of raffles. And I don't have the picture ready, but y'all know me. I'll go back to my old school way we used to do things. And I'm going to show you guys this is a preview of what will be on sale. We have a new edition. Oh God, my phone is just all fingered up. But we have a new edition hoodie. I'm trying to make sure we have a new edition hoodie coming out in black and also red. These will be on sale on Saturday for $44.99. I'll get information out today. You guys can, there's only 19 because I'm taking one. There are 19 that will be on sale on Saturday. We have medium, we have large and extra large. We only have 2 medium in both colors, red and black. And so if you would like to pre-order, I'll put the information up later to reserve your hoodie for Saturday. Mugs will be on sale as well. All right, folks, I'm getting off of here. I feel like I'm rambling now. And that is it for me. And yes, Sharon, I'm not messing with you. I went to church Sunday and Pastor Gordon was like Reverend James Hills. And I literally was like, right in the middle of service. But all right, guys, thank you for tuning in today. That is Naraki Jordan. I want one of each. I can't come Saturday. We'll figure out a way. The pre-order is going to be done via Cash App. So we'll let you know, Naraki. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being in a little longer today. There was a wealth of information shared by our state rep. And so thank you all for being here. Talk to you soon. Peace.